I just went to bed one night, totally normal, and I woke up and I was paralyzed in the morning.
Hey Fraud Squad, welcome to Who Let Me Do This. I'm your host, Saidee, and this is the podcast for anyone who's ever looked around and thought, wait, who trusted me with this job, with these kids, and with this life? Here's the deal. I'm not here to hand you the perfect 5-step plan to get your life together. I'm here to share the chaos, the fails, the small wins, and the oh my god, same moments of trying to be a working mom, a decent human, and occasionally a functioning adult. And because we are all out here winging it together, I'll also bring in actual experts to drop some wisdom and share tips that might make our lives easier, just a little. So if you're listening, congrats. You're officially a part of the Fraud Squad. That's our little community of imposters, hot messes, and overachievers who are all just faking it together. So grab your coffee, grab your wine, or let's be real, grab the leftover food from dinner that your kid didn't eat, and let's dive in. Oh, and if you like what you hear, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode and share it with a friend who could, I don't know, use a laugh or maybe just a little solidarity. The more of us in the Fraud Squad, the better. Welcome back to Who Let Me Do This. Today, I am here to introduce Hannah. Hannah is a mom of 2 young toddlers with one on the way, and who set off on a mission to not only get herself and her new husband out of debt quickly after college, but also built sustainable personal wealth, allowing her to not only stay out of debt throughout the most expensive years of our lives, but continue to reach for big goals like a net worth of nearly $2 million, a home remodel, and dreams of a future cabin. She uses her knowledge from the finance world and obsession with personal finance to build a business with multiple resources and content that help others get out and stay out of debt while still living a life they love. Hannah, the founder of Financially Engaged, I am so excited to welcome you to the Fraud Squad.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so for our listeners, Hannah started a Instagram account called Financially Engaged. What year did you start that account?
So it's been a journey. If we rewind to 2008 is when it really, the idea came to life. Brady, my husband, his parents had him go to a personal finance class when we were in high school.
Okay.
He came to this class, and when he got there, he was surrounded by people who were in their 50s and 60s. He was this 17-year-old bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid. And all these people that were in the class were talking about all the financial problems that they'd already experienced. You know, they were already in a mountain of credit card debt. They had marital issues from financial issues, their entire marriage. And so they just looked at him and they were like, we really wish that we had learned all of this in our 20s and 30s, not waiting till the problems had already come to be. And so that was the first kind of light bulb moment for him, that there should be education much earlier in our lives around finances. And
wait, pause. Question. The class he went to was not for high schoolers.
Not really. It was
Okay.
the Dave Ramsey class. And so it really is geared towards older couples.
So you were saying the other participants in the class were 20s and 30s.
No, the other participants in the class were people in their 50s and 60s that were telling him, please take this to heart. We wish we would have learned this stuff when we were in our 20s and 30s. And he went on to college and met me. At the end of college, started dating. And that's kind of when we started talking about all these student loans that I'm going to be paying off. I ended up graduating with about $40K of student debt and a $10K car loan. And so that was my catalyst into personal finance, because I was like, wow, this really sucks to have all this debt. I mean, my salary at the time was $57K or so. And, I was staring down $50K of debt. So a large chunk of my salary every single month was going to my debt payments.
Yep.
And so that's when we started building these budgets in Excel, super basic, to create a plan for the month. I was trying to figure out how I could pay more than the minimums on my debt to try to get out of debt faster. So we started creating these plans just for fun.
But they were for your personal use.
Yes.
So you guys were our personal situation,
Brady goes to finance class in high school. He's like, I want to be financially responsible
Yeah.
my whole life.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys get married and you have what is considered good debt, right? It's college debt.
Right,
And then
right.
car loan debt, not as great, but you have okay debt. It's not credit card debt.
Right.
But it wasn't like, hey, we need to start a business to get people out of debt. It was, hey, we want to get out
Oh,
of debt
yeah.
as young, freshly graduated people who have financial dreams and goals.
Yeah, everything started very organically, like our own life, what we're going through, creating tools for ourselves. And then soon enough, our family and friends and coworkers were asking us if they could get a copy of our budget. And so then that kind of was the next light bulb moment like, oh, other people our age
Mhm.
want this kind of stuff.
Yep.
We actually, all of our friends are in accounting and finance, and they were never even taught how to do any of this. Personal finance is very different from like business finance and
Mhm.
accounting. Then eventually we started Financially Engaged officially in 2018. We were both working our full-time jobs, but this was more us doing it as a side hustle.
Yeah.
And I created a debt payoff plan because that's what everybody was asking us for. It's what I wish I had when I was paying my debt off. We also had been testing like every single budgeting app and Excel spreadsheet on the market, and we just continued to not love them.
Yeah.
We always would fight about nitpicky little expenses, or we'd get to the end of the month and we'd complete our budget, but we'd be like, okay, like what is the point?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create something that helped us zoom out from the nitpicky little expenses and actually focused us on our goals.
Yep.
Like, what are we saving for? Are we actually making progress? Because that I felt like was a lot more tangible, and it helped us stay in a conversation that's more positive when
Yeah.
we're talking about finances. So that's why we created the Cash Dash, which is our financial budgeting plan that we now use on a weekly basis. And again, it was out of a need for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then once we've created that, we realized that other people wanted it.
So it sounds a little bit like you're saying originally, as you guys were navigating through becoming fiscally free or fiscally responsible, it felt a little bit more defensive in the sense of you were getting nitpicky, you were looking at kind of that lower level line item,
Yeah.
and it was all about getting out of debt. And it sounds like as you guys started to navigate through the different budgeting apps and the different resources that were already available to you, you had this awakening almost of it's less about the being defensive about finances and getting more on the offense, right? Because then
Yeah.
it was more of the look forward and the
Yes.
future and what could we do if we did this
Yeah.
versus I'm digging out of a hole. It's actually like I'm building for a future.
Yeah. And I feel like the miss I see with a lot of couples is they just don't talk about what their goals are.
Mhm.
They don't have those conversations. It's something, again, that we're just not taught. And once we started flipping the narrative and being more goal and future focused, it was just so much more easy to have these weekly or monthly money conversations because we knew it was something fun. Like
Mhm.
we're working towards our goals. We're
Uh-huh.
not like blaming each other for buying a latte or like
Mhm.
a new shirt.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so you talked about this a little bit, but can you break down what the first product you offered was?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that. And then I want to hear a little bit about what are some of the newer, because obviously financially engaged has continued to evolve
Yeah.
with where you are in your life and the more you guys learn and what people are asking for. And as the financially engaged community has grown, what they're asking for. So
Yeah.
what was your like initial offering?
Yeah. It was the debt payoff plan. I created the debt payoff plan probably back in 2021, and that got just really great response. I mean, we were able to build something that people actually used, and
Mhm.
so that's such a rewarding feeling. And once we had that,
Do you still offer that?
yeah, we do.
Okay. And is it any kind of debt? Credit card,
Yeah.
college?
Any kind of debt.
Okay.
We wanted it to be super flexible, and we also want to build all of our tools so that individuals or couples can use them together. We have found that as kind of a gap in the market where there's these great budgets, but it's like not great for couples to have conversations or plan together.
Yeah.
So that's what we really try to tailor all of our stuff towards, is that two people could use them together. It's
Mhm.
not to say individuals can't
Yeah.
use them and be successful. It's just that that's another benefit to them.
I know you've been working on some really exciting stuff this past year. Talk to me a little bit about what are a couple either your favorite offerings you have or maybe a new thing that you've recently
Yeah.
released?
So once we had the debt payoff plan, we created the cash dash, which again is our like weekly money budgeting system. And that was really fun to do because we finally had something that we actually liked sitting down and
Mhm.
looking at our money with every month.
And the goal of the cash dash is
It's to create a monthly budget, but it's more of a higher level budget that's focused on you're allocating money to the most important things like your credit cards or your bills or your emergency fund, the investments you want to make, the goals that you're saving for. And then it kind of gives you this slush fund of whatever else is there, you can free to spend. Again,
Mhm.
I don't care if it's on a coffee or a shirt or
Yep.
whatever. And that's been really helpful to not be like nitpicking at each other. But those two products were products that we created when we were both still working full time. And the one question I would always get asked is, well, how do I get started investing? Like, what's the first step? What buttons do I click on the website? And so I knew that I just didn't have the bandwidth while working full time to put together a full investing course. So when I quit my job in 2024 to do this full time, I knew that that was going to be the first thing that I worked on. And so I created the Investing for Beginners course, which really walks people through the fundamental education of investing in the stock market. But it's not just like this is what the stock market is,
Mhm.
like definitions. I wanted it to be super actionable. And so when students take the course, they learn about the stock market, but then they're putting together their investing plan as they move throughout the course. So they're first going through and putting their goals in there. We're setting timelines on those goals. We're setting amounts for those goals, which is such a skipped over a step. People just don't go through the process
Yeah.
of writing that down and identifying and even telling themselves what the heck are you working towards? What is your goal?
I feel like so many people come out of college and their goal is just to put into their 401k whatever their company will match,
Yes.
which is a great goal,
Yeah.
right? Like it's better than not doing anything, but it almost feels like you're like, oh, my goal is retirement, but you don't have any concept of when will I retire? How will I retire? What would I need to retire?
Yeah.
Compound interest. Like I didn't even know what compound interest was when I started
I
putting in my
know.
401k. I just
Me
did it
either.
because someone told me I was supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're starting this course by being like, this is your why. This is what we're working towards.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to work until you're 65 and climb the corporate ladder. Maybe you want to retire early, or maybe you do want to keep working and you have these other big life goals that you want to hit, while you're in your career. I don't care what it is, but I want you to know personally what you're working towards. And so once we do that, then we teach about how to identify, your risk tolerance and how to identify the fees that you're
Mm.
paying when you're with all these various investment types. And then finally, at the end of the course, we're actually going and picking investments, but there's all these steps. As you go to make sure that you're buying investments at the end of the day that align to your goals and your risk tolerance and your timeline.
And that's the thing too, is like finances are so personal.
Yes.
And I think people know that. And it's interesting because I feel like back in the 90s, or even as like we were growing up, finance being personal was more of no one spoke about what they made.
Yes.
And our generation has been a lot more open about that. Obviously, there's the laws now that with certain job descriptions in certain states, you have to put
Mhm.
the salary band.
Yep.
But really, when I think about how personal finances are, it's less about I make this, you make that. It's more of there isn't a certain amount of money you need to make to be successful. It's what are your personal goals?
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with saying my personal goal is to live in $1 million house and someone else say
Right.
they don't, or they would rather have a boat, or they'd rather have two homes,
Yeah.
or it might just be as simple as they want to pay for their kids' college, or they want to live, debt free or mortgage free. And so I
Exactly.
think what I hear you say is that you've created these tools that are usable for anyone, and you don't have to fit into a box of like, this is the student debt eliminator. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's just debt. What does that look like? Is it your car debt? Is it your mortgage debt? Is it credit
Yeah.
card debt? It doesn't matter. We're just gonna help
Mhm.
you get out of it and show you the different ways to get out of it. And then long term investments. Like I'm not telling you that you need to be day trading or be in the stock market, but it helps you understand, even with something as simple as a 401k,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of it besides
Yeah.
that someone told you that you should have it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so another question I have for you is I was like poking around on your Instagram as I was getting ready for this interview. And something I often say to people is that we today are in the most expensive decade of our lives.
Yes.
But I also know that there are these different phases in our life where we are facing really large expenses
hmm
based on the phase of life we're in. Can you talk a little bit about the the way you've seen expenses ebb and flow from when you graduated college, you got married, started a family, etc.
Yeah.
And like, what does that mean? Like, what are you looking at? What are people often looking at in these different decades of their life?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like your 20s are such an important decade and also a very expensive decade. And as you move into your 30s, because if you think about all the big things that happen, you graduate college, a lot of us have student debt, a lot of us go buy our first cars. A lot of us go get married.
Hmm.
We might all want to travel
Hmm.
in our 20s. We might want to buy a house if that's even somewhat attainable
Hmm.
with the interest rates these days. And then once you do all that, you're likely starting a family, having kids. Childcare is an insane cost
Yeah.
that I absolutely was not prepared for.
No, I
And
always joke too that no one ever like sat me down. Like, I got married in a religious institution, and in our like preparation for marriage, they talk to you about family planning, and in even the pediatrician or like our OB would talk to us about how far apart like our kids should be spaced for like them to get along or whatever. Not one person was like, Sadie, you should think about the distance between your kids because of extreme daycare costs. And I talk
yeah,
about it in a prior episode of at one point we had the three kids
yeah,
at daycare at the same time, and our daycare was $5,000 a month. And that was when I was pregnant, not with any of my children was I like, oh gosh, like how is this going to affect me financially? I
yeah,
just always, everyone says, oh, kids are so expensive. But like the factor of daycare is so enormous.
yeah,
It's insane. All right. So, can you break down a little bit with those different decades of life? Like you said, there's these different things. You come out of college and you finally feel like you have money if you have a full time job for
yeah,
the first time, but you have student debt. You want to travel because you want to travel before you settle down and have kids. You might be planning a wedding. You might be considering buying a house, maybe not quite yet. How do you recommend people balance getting to live their life to the fullest in each of these decades while balancing saving for the future?
yeah. And so that really comes back to the whole exercise of sitting down and writing down what your goals are.
Mhm.
Some people want to get married and buy a house and have kids immediately after college. And some people do want to go on their bucket list dream vacations. There's no right answer, but you have to take the time to write down. I don't care if it's on a piece of paper with a pencil, but going through and writing down what are the top priorities for you, and
Mhm.
then putting some rough numbers to them, and then trying to either save towards those goals or start investing for those longer term. Ideally, you can find a little bit of a balance because personally, for me, I was so focused on paying off my debt. I didn't understand the opportunity cost of not investing as much in those early years. I now am older and wiser and look back and I'm kind of kicking myself like, you had pretty low interest rate debt. I wish I would have been funneling more into my
Mhm.
investments and not trying to pay off my debt early. It's neither here nor there. Nothing is going to be perfect.
Yeah, but if I'm like, okay, so I'm, let's say, 23-year-old Sadie. I'm in my first full-time job. I'm facing some college debt. I had to purchase a car, low payment, etc., but to get myself back and forth to my first job. And
Yep.
if you were to talk to me at 23 and share what you have learned now, what would you tell that person to better understand?
I would want them to better understand how interest rates work. I think a lot of people come out of college and they get themselves into a lot of high interest credit card debt,
Mm.
which is really, really dangerous, or other high interest loans. And a lot of people don't understand how negatively that can impact you as you're going through those early stages
Yeah.
of your adult years. And I wish too, I wish I had better understood interest rates and how when I have low interest rates on my debt, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
What is the like? Isn't there like a threshold that is if your interest rate is below like 6 or 7?
Yeah, it's the 6 to
Okay.
7% range. Technically, and they say that because historically in the stock market, you could be investing for the long term and on average earn about 7%
Okay.
after inflation. And if,
So your money will grow faster than the
yeah,
interest that you're paying.
exactly.
Okay. So you kind of touched on this, but I'm curious if there's anything else that you would say is what is your biggest financial regret? Whether it's something you've done and you're like, that was a really silly spend of money or something you didn't do.
Yeah, my biggest regret is the debt,
Yeah.
just trying to accelerate that when I probably didn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, because I'm also obviously, a kind of a personal finance freak, like I just like love money actually makes me very uncomfortable, but I love to
Yeah.
learn about it.
Yeah.
I wish that I would have better. I always invested really heavy in my 401ks
Yeah.
very young,
Mhm.
which I think is great. And I would tell anyone if there's nothing else that they do, just do it from their first paycheck
Yeah.
and just get super used to it. I wish I would have played in the stock market younger
Mhm.
because you have so much opportunity and like you have such a big threshold for risk and you
Yes.
get to watch the stock market go up and up, but just like do it and don't even look at it and just
Mhm.
let that puppy grow. Because the way compound, like if you get yourself in one of those compound interest calculators, you're
They're
like,
fun.
5 more years makes such a difference. And you're like,
It
mother
does.
of pearl.
Yes, and I mean, you're not alone. Everybody I talk to wishes they started investing earlier.
But there's no time like today.
Right, exactly.
There's no time like today. Okay. Let's talk about what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about money?
I think the biggest misconception about money is people think it's all about numbers, when in reality, money is a highly psychological, emotional issue. The way you look at money is very much formed by how you experienced money as a child.
Mm,
So, when did your parents come to you and talk to you about money? Did they ever talk to you about money? Was it something that they always fought about? These early childhood experiences shape how we grow up with money
yeah.
and feel about it into adulthood. And so, I think that's the biggest misconception, especially when people get into relationships too. It's like money is already a complex topic, but then have this second person that you're now
Mhm.
trying to navigate money with, and it can be very difficult if you don't have resources or education on how to navigate that together.
That's good. The other one I would say that I've learned actually from you and other financial blogs that I follow is you don't have to have a lot of money to start investing or to
Yes.
grow. Like even a little bit can make a really big difference because, again, so much about investment and money growth is actually time
Hmm.
versus money.
Yep.
So I think some people are like, well, I'll start investing when I can do $100 a month
Yeah.
or I can do, you know, $1,000 a year. And it's like, just do even $20.
You can start with $1 on Fidelity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like just like starting to put some of that away
Yeah.
can make such a big difference. Then you'll look back and it's 5 years have passed and you've actually made so much more money. The other one that I wish, this is another thing I wish I would have learned earlier. And this very much has to do with, I think, growing up in the Midwest and the way we talk about money in the Midwest is I was so scared for money to not be in my savings account.
Yeah.
And so I like grew these wild savings accounts and I would put all of my dollars, like I basically was putting money under my mattress because
Yeah.
I'm not getting any interest really on that. And it just freaked me out to not be able to have money like at my fingertips at any minute. But
Hmm.
then when you really dig in, there's different levels of restriction,
Yeah.
depending if you have like a normal savings account, a high yield savings account, an
Yeah.
investment account, all of these things. And so that's the other one I wish that I would have gotten more comfortable with the idea of not having all of my savings sitting in a normal checking or savings account.
Yeah. You're not alone in that.
Yeah. It like took me a long time to like get
Yeah.
comfortable with like even like $5,000, right? Like instead of having it sit in my savings account to be like, I'm going to put it in a high yield was even scary because I was like, I can only do 10 transactions a month or whatever. And your savings, like how often do you Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, let's swing into family and personal life. We started to
Okay.
touch on it a little bit, but the first thing I'd love to hear you talk about is you were diagnosed with MS. I would love to hear more about your story with MS, how you were diagnosed, how it has changed your outlook on life, family planning, financial planning, etc.
Yeah. So in 2018, it was February, I just went to bed one night, totally normal, and I woke up and I was paralyzed in the morning. I couldn't walk. Half of my face was paralyzed. I couldn't talk. I couldn't write with my right hand. And so it was very sudden. It was this crazy onset.
What did you do? Like,
Okay, that's it. Thanks for joining this episode of Who Let Me Do This. Go drink some water, set a boundary, and don't forget you're doing amazing, sweetie, even if you're spiraling. And hey, if this episode made you laugh or feel seen, send it to a friend, hit follow, or leave a review. You know, do all the things. See you next time.